The first alien ship arrived at Earth's orbital station on a Tuesday morning. Commander Jake Harrison watched through the observation deck as the massive crystalline vessel docked with their facility. The ship looked like a floating cathedral, made of blue glass, its surface reflecting the sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Jake had been preparing for this moment for 3 years, ever since Earth's scientists finally cracked faster-than-light travel. The whole galaxy knew about humanity now, and apparently someone wanted to talk. The airlock hissed open and 3 beings stepped through. They were tall, maybe 8 feet, and their bodies were made of what looked like living crystal. When they moved, light danced through their transparent forms like water flowing through colored glass. The lead alien wore something that might have been clothing, a flowing robe that seemed to be made of the same crystal as their body. "Greetings," the alien said. And somehow Jake understood the words even though he knew they weren't speaking English. "I am Zara 97 of the Zarathi people. We represent the Galactic Trade Consortium." Jake stepped forward and extended his hand. The alien looked at it for a moment, then reached out with what might have been an arm. The crystal was warm and smooth, like touching a heated window. "Welcome to Earth Station Alpha," Jake said. "I'm Commander Harrison. We've been looking forward to meeting other civilizations." Dr. Lisa Morgan stepped up beside Jake. She was Earth's top expert on alien biology, though until today that had been mostly theoretical work. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she studied the visitors. "This is Dr. Morgan, our science advisor," Jake said. "And this is Daniel Carter, our trade representative." Carter moved forward with the smooth confidence of a man who had spent 20 years in corporate boardrooms. He wore an expensive suit that fit perfectly, and his smile never quite reached his eyes. When he shook hands with the alien, Jake noticed how Carter studied their visitor's reaction to every gesture. "The Galactic Trade Consortium has been watching your species since you achieved faster-than-light capability," Zara 97 continued. "We are pleased to offer Earth membership in our organization." The aliens led them to a conference room where they spread out what looked like holographic documents. Charts and graphs floated in the air, showing trade routes that connected dozens of star systems. Jake counted at least 40 different species represented in the data. "The consortium has maintained peace and prosperity across this sector for over 2,000 years, another Zarathi explained. "We achieved this through careful coordination of resources and trade relationships." Carter leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled as he listened. Dr. Morgan took notes frantically, trying to record everything she could about their visitors. Jake focused on the bigger picture, thinking about what this meant for Earth's future. The aliens explained their system with obvious pride. Each species in the consortium had a specific role based on their natural abilities and resources. The insect-like Kithara were master manufacturers, their hive minds perfect for coordinating complex production. The aquatic Nereid controlled shipping routes through their understanding of 3-dimensional space. Dozens of other species filled specialized niches in the galactic economy. Earth would join as a junior member, Zara 97 said. "Your planet is rich in rare minerals and has excellent agricultural potential. We calculate that Earth could provide 17% of the consortium's food needs within 5 years. "That's very generous," Carter said, though something in his tone made Jake glance at him. What would Earth receive in return? Technology, of course. Medical advances that could extend human lifespans by centuries. Energy systems that could power your entire planet without environmental damage. Transportation networks that would connect Earth to every civilized world. Dr. Morgan's pen stopped moving. "What kind of restrictions would there be?" The third Zarathi, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "The consortium maintains order through careful regulation. Each member species focuses on their assigned specialties. This prevents wasteful competition and ensures optimal resource allocation." Carter nodded slowly. "So Earth would focus on mining and farming?" "Primarily, yes, though of course humans would be free to pursue other interests as individuals. Many species find great satisfaction in their traditional roles." Jake watched Carter's face during this exchange. The trade representative's expression remained pleasant and interested, But Jake had seen that look before in business meetings. It was the face Carter wore when someone was about to make a very expensive mistake. "This is a significant decision for our species," Jake said. "We would need time to consider your offer and consult with our government." "Of course," Zara 97 agreed. "We understand that primitive species often require extended deliberation periods." Dr. Morgan's eyebrows rose at the word primitive, but she didn't comment. "Perhaps," Carter suggested, "some of our people could visit your central hub? It would help us understand how the consortium operates in practice." The aliens exchanged what might have been glances, though it was hard to tell with their crystalline faces. "That is highly unusual. Most species accept membership based on our standard presentations." "Humans are naturally curious," Carter said, with his most charming smile. "We learn better through direct observation." After some discussion, the Zarathi agreed to arrange a visit to Nexus Prime, the consortium's main trade station. They would provide transportation and guided tours to help humanity understand the benefits of membership. As the meeting concluded, Jake noticed how Carter studied every detail of the aliens' behavior. The way they deferred to Zara 97's decisions, how they seemed uncomfortable with direct questions about their system's flexibility, the casual assumption that humans would naturally accept a subordinate role. After the aliens left, the three humans sat in the empty conference room. Dr. Morgan was already analyzing her notes, muttering about crystalline biology and collective consciousness. Carter stared at the wall where the holographic trade charts had been displayed. "Well?" Jake asked. Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, and this time the expression did reach his eyes. "They have no idea what they just walked into," he said softly. "They think they're dealing with another peaceful species that will gratefully accept whatever scraps they offer. Aren't we?" Dr. Morgan asked. Carter laughed. "Lisa, in the past 20 years, I've dismantled companies that were older and more established than most of their member species. I've turned hostile takeovers into art forms, and they want to put Earth in a box marked junior partner and think we'll stay there." Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's air conditioning. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Carter said, straightening his tie, "that the Galactic Trade Consortium is about to get their first real education in human nature." 3 weeks later, the Earth vessel New Horizon approached Nexus Prime through a field of glittering space debris that turned out to be other ships. Captain Ryan Brooks had never seen anything like it. The station was massive, easily 50 times larger than Earth's biggest orbital platform. Ships of every imaginable design docked and departed in carefully orchestrated patterns. "It looks like a city," Brooks muttered as he guided their ship toward the assigned docking bay. Daniel Carter stood behind the captain's chair, watching through the view screen with calculating eyes. Beside him, Amanda Foster typed rapidly on her tablet, already taking notes on the traffic patterns and ship classifications. Dr. Lisa Morgan pressed her face against the window like an excited child, trying to catalog the different alien architectures. The docking process took 2 hours. Everything moved according to strict schedules that had apparently been in place for centuries. No ship deviated from its assigned course or timing. Carter filed this information away for later use. Zara 97 met them at the airlock, accompanied by 2 other Zarathi Carter didn't recognize. The aliens wore the same flowing crystal robes, but these had different patterns of light flowing through them. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Zara 97 said. "We have prepared a comprehensive tour that will show you the efficiency of our trade systems." They rode a transport pod through the station's main commercial district. The corridors were wide and clean, filled with beings from dozens of different species. Carter watched how they interacted, noting the subtle hierarchies in their behavior. The Zarathi clearly held positions of authority, while other species seemed to defer to them automatically. Their first stop was a massive manufacturing complex run by the Cathara. The insect-like beings worked in perfect synchronization, their forearms assembling complex devices with mechanical precision. Carter noticed that every Cathara worked at exactly the same pace, never faster or slower than their neighbors. "The Cathara have been our primary manufacturers for 800 years. Their Zarathi guide explained. They produce 93% of the consortium's technology products. Amanda looked up from her tablet. What happens if demand changes? Do they adjust production levels? The guide's crystal body flickered slightly. Demand does not change significantly. The consortium's planning committee calculates needs in advance and sets production quotas accordingly. Carter smiled politely, while making mental notes. No flexibility in production. No response to market signals. No innovation pressure. He had seen similar systems before, in companies, right before he acquired them. Their next destination was the shipping district, controlled by the aquatic Nereid. The dolphin-like aliens managed their operations from pools of water scattered throughout their section of the station. Holographic displays showed shipping routes connecting every world in consortium space. The Nereid understand three-dimensional navigation better than any other species, Zara 97 explained with pride. They have maintained a perfect safety record for over 4 centuries. Dr. Morgan leaned forward. How do they handle emergency situations or route changes? A Nereid surfaced in the nearest pool and spoke in a series of clicks and whistles that the translation system converted to words. Emergencies are prevented through proper planning. Route changes require approval from the Transportation Authority, which meets monthly to review proposals. Carter nodded appreciatively while thinking about how Earth's logistics companies handled thousands of route changes every day in response to real-time conditions. The consortium system was impressively stable and completely inflexible. During lunch at a multi-species restaurant, Amanda asked innocent questions about market competition. Their hosts explained patiently that competition was wasteful and disruptive. Each species had found their optimal role through careful analysis and testing. Why change what worked perfectly? But what if someone develops a better way to do things? Dr. Morgan asked. The Zarathi guide's light patterns shifted to what might have been confusion. Better than optimal? Carter jumped in smoothly. Dr. Morgan is just curious about your quality improvement processes. On Earth, we're always looking for small efficiencies. Ah, yes, the primitive desire to tinker with functional systems, Zara 97 said with what sounded like fondness. Most young species go through this phase. You will learn to appreciate stability as you mature. That evening, the human delegation gathered in their assigned quarters. Brooks had remained with the ship, but the other 3 sat around a small table covered with Amanda's notes and data tablets. It's remarkable, Dr. Morgan said, scrolling through her observations. They've created a stable civilization that spans hundreds of worlds. No wars, no economic crises, no social upheaval for over 1,000 years. It's also completely stagnant, Amanda replied. Look at these production figures. Manufacturing output hasn't changed more than 2% in 50 years. Trade volumes are flat. There's no growth anywhere in the system. Carter was studying a different set of data entirely. He had been paying attention to the personal interactions between species, the decision-making processes, and the flow of information through their hierarchy. They're not just stagnant, he said finally. They're fragile. This whole system depends on everyone staying in their assigned roles and never questioning the arrangement. What do you mean? Dr. Morgan asked. Carter pulled up a chart on his tablet showing the consortium's economic structure. Look at this. The Cathara make everything, the Nereid ship everything, the Zarathi manage everything. But what happens if the Cathara decide they want to run their own shipping? Or if the Nereids start manufacturing their own products? The system would break down, Amanda said slowly, understanding dawning in her voice. Exactly. They've eliminated competition by creating artificial monopolies. Each species controls one piece of the economy, so there's no pressure to innovate or improve. But it also means there's no redundancy. No alternatives. Dr. Morgan frowned. Are you suggesting we should disrupt their system? Carter leaned back, in his chair with a slight smile. I'm suggesting that their system is already disrupted. They just don't know it yet. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy corridors of Nexus Prime. Thousands of beings moved through the station following patterns that hadn't changed in centuries. They invited us here to show off their perfect order, Carter continued. But what they've really done is give us a complete map of every weakness in their economy, every inefficiency, every point where a little competition could create massive changes. Amanda was already typing on her tablet, her fingers flying over the keys. If we introduced competitive bidding for shipping contracts, the Nereid would have to improve their services or lose business to newcomers, Carter finished. And if we provided funding for Cathera who wanted to start their own manufacturing cooperatives, the monopoly would fragment into competing firms, Dr. Morgan said, though she looked troubled. But Carter, these people have been at peace for 1,000 years. Do we have the right to change that? Carter's smile widened. Dr. Morgan, we're not going to change anything. We're just going to offer some alternatives and let market forces work naturally. He turned back to the window, watching a group of young aliens from different species talking together in one of the recreational areas. They looked curious about each other, eager to learn and explore. Besides, Carter added softly, I don't think their system is as stable as they believe. Look at those young people down there. They're naturally curious, naturally competitive. The consortium has been suppressing those instincts for centuries, but humans understand something their leaders don't. What's that? Amanda asked. Carter's reflection in the window showed his predator's smile. You can't kill the competitive spirit, you can only redirect it. 6 months after their return from Nexus Prime, Earth officially joined the Galactic Trade Consortium as a junior member. The signing ceremony took place aboard a Zarathi diplomatic vessel in Earth's orbit. Daniel Carter wore his best suit and smiled warmly as he shook hands with Zara 97 and the other consortium representatives. Earth is honored to join this ancient and peaceful organization, Carter said during his speech. We look forward to contributing our resources and learning from your wisdom. The aliens were pleased with humanity's humble acceptance of their junior status. Most new species took decades to fully integrate into the consortium's systems. Humans seemed unusually cooperative and eager to help. Within weeks, Earth began shipping rare metals and agricultural products to consortium worlds according to their assigned quotas. The Zarathi praised humanity's efficiency and reliability. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. What the aliens didn't notice was the small consulting firm that Carter had quietly established on Nexus Prime. Earth Consulting Services occupied a modest office in the station's business district, staffed by 3 humans who claimed to specialize in operational optimization and efficiency analysis. Carter's first client was almost too easy to acquire. The Nereid shipping coordinator named Deep Current Rising had been complaining privately about outdated route planning for months. When Carter approached with an offer to analyze their operations for free, Deep Current Rising agreed immediately. Amanda Foster spent 3 weeks studying Nereid shipping patterns with the enthusiasm of a predator studying prey. She identified 17 major inefficiencies in their routes, including a particularly wasteful detour that added 6 days to shipments between 2 major worlds. Your current routing system was designed 400 years ago, Amanda explained to Deep Current Rising during their presentation. It made sense when these were the only inhabited worlds in the sector, but now it forces ships to make unnecessary stops. The holographic display showed Amanda's proposed new routes in glowing blue lines. They cut shipping times by an average of 30% while reducing fuel consumption by even more. Deep Current Rising's fins fluttered with excitement. The Transportation Authority would never approve such dramatic changes. They meet only once per month and rarely alter established patterns. Carter leaned forward with his most helpful expression. What if the changes were implemented gradually, small improvements that technically fall within your current operational authority? Within 2 months, Nereid Shipping had quietly adopted most of Amanda's suggestions. Their delivery times improved dramatically, and other species began requesting their services over competitors who still used the old inefficient routes. Deep Current Rising received a promotion and started recommending Earth Consulting Services to colleagues. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Morgan had established what she called cultural exchange programs on 3 different worlds. Young beings from various species attended week-long workshops where they learned about human problem-solving techniques and creative thinking methods. The workshops were actually intensive courses in competitive analysis, strategic planning, and negotiation tactics disguised as cultural education. Morgan was careful to present these concepts as interesting human customs rather than business tools. A young Kythera named Click Sharp Mind attended Morgan's first workshop on the manufacturing world of Hive 7. Unlike his peers, Click Sharp Mind had always been frustrated by the rigid production schedules that never changed regardless of demand or new ideas. Humans have this concept called innovation, Morgan explained to her class of 20 mixed species. It means looking at existing problems and finding new solutions, even when the old solutions work adequately. Click Sharp Mind's compound eyes focused intently on Morgan, as she described how human companies competed by constantly improving their products and processes. The idea that change could be good rather than disruptive was revolutionary to his hive-conditioned mind. After the workshop, Click Sharp Mind approached Morgan privately. "Dr. Morgan, I have developed improvements to our manufacturing process that could increase efficiency by 40%. But the Production Council says our current methods are already optimal." Morgan smiled gently. "What if there was a way to fund your research independently? Humans have this thing called venture capital." 2 weeks later, Amanda Foster met with Click Sharp Mind in a small cafe on Nexus Prime. She listened carefully as he explained his manufacturing innovations, taking notes and asking technical questions that showed she understood both the potential and the risks. Earth Consulting Services could provide funding for a small pilot program, Amanda offered. Nothing that would threaten the existing system, just a small-scale test to prove your concepts. Click Sharp Mind signed the agreement that same day. Within a month, he had a small workshop hidden in an abandoned section of Hive 7, where he could test his ideas without attracting official attention. His new manufacturing process worked exactly as promised. Carter's third initiative was the most subtle. He began hosting informal dinner parties at Earth Consulting Services offices, bringing together mid-level managers from different species who had never seriously talked to each other before. The parties were presented as networking, events designed to improve interspecies cooperation. In reality, they were carefully orchestrated opportunities for ambitious individuals to discover that they had more in common with each other than with their own species' rigid hierarchies. A Nereid route planner named Swift Deep Swimmer found herself in deep conversation with a Zarathi trade analyst called Clear Light Thinking. Both had been frustrated by their organization's resistance to obvious improvements in their respective departments. "The Transportation Authority still uses planning models from 3 centuries ago," Swift Deep Swimmer complained over dinner. "The Trade Council is equally resistant to new ideas," Clear Light Thinking replied. "They rejected my proposal for dynamic pricing models because it would require quarterly reviews instead of annual ones." Carter listened to these conversations with the satisfaction of a chess master, watching his opponents make the moves he had anticipated. He didn't need to push these individuals toward rebellion. He just needed to give them opportunities to realize that change was possible. By the end of Earth's first year in the consortium, small cracks were appearing in the system's perfect order. Nereid Shipping was outcompeting other transportation providers by using Earth Consulting Services route optimizations. Several Kythera manufacturing cooperatives had quietly formed with human funding, producing goods that were noticeably superior to the standard products. Most importantly, a new generation of ambitious aliens had discovered that the galaxy's economic system wasn't as fixed and unchangeable as they had been taught. They began questioning why their species had to accept their assigned roles forever. The Zarathi leadership noticed some of these changes, but dismissed them as minor fluctuations in an otherwise stable system. They were pleased that the humans seemed to be integrating so well into consortium society. Earth's resource shipments arrived on schedule, and their consulting firm was helping improve operational efficiency across several sectors. Zara 97 even sent Carter a formal commendation for Earth Consulting Services' contributions to interspecies cooperation. Carter framed the certificate and hung it on his office wall, right next to a photograph of himself shaking hands with the CEO of the last Fortune 500 company he had acquired. The game was proceeding exactly as planned. 2 years after Earth joined the Galactic Trade Consortium, the first major crisis erupted on the manufacturing world of Hive 7. ClickSharp Mind's small workshop had grown into a network of 12 independent Kythera manufacturing cooperatives, all producing goods that were faster, cheaper, and better designed than the traditional hive products. The Kythera Production Council called an emergency meeting when they discovered that nearly 20% of their workers had left the main hives to join these new cooperatives. For the first time in 800 years, the species that had been the consortium's most reliable manufacturers was experiencing internal competition. "This disruption threatens our entire social structure," declared the chief production coordinator, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "The hive system has maintained order and efficiency for millennia." ClickSharp Mind stood before the council wearing a simple vest that marked him as a cooperative leader rather than a hive worker. "Honored coordinators, we have not abandoned our duties to the consortium. Our cooperatives produce 30% more goods using 20% fewer resources." The council was not interested in efficiency arguments. They were concerned about precedent. If individual Kythera could leave the hives and form their own production units, the entire foundation of their society would crumble. Word of the Kythera crisis reached Daniel Carter within hours. He was in his expanded offices on Nexus Prime, reviewing reports from Amanda Foster, who had been tracking market disruptions across 17 different worlds. The scope of change was exceeding even Carter's ambitious projections. "The Nereid transportation network is fragmenting," Amanda reported during their morning briefing. 12 independent shipping companies have formed in the past 6 months, all using our route optimization systems. They're undercutting the traditional monopoly by 40%. Dr. Lisa Morgan joined the meeting via hologram from her cultural exchange center on the Zarathi homeworld. "The political implications are becoming serious. I'm hearing reports that the Consortium Council is planning intervention measures to restore traditional order." Carter leaned back in his chair, studying the data flowing across multiple screens. Market prices were fluctuating wildly as competition replaced fixed pricing agreements. Innovation was exploding as species competed to develop new products and services. The carefully balanced system that had maintained galactic peace for centuries was transforming into something the Zarathi had never encountered. "How are our human friends responding to these developments?" Carter asked with a slight smile. Morgan's expression was troubled. "They're starting to realize what we've done. Zara 97 requested a meeting with me yesterday. The questions were very pointed." Before Carter could respond, his communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. Commander Jake Harrison's face appeared on the main screen, calling from Earth Station Alpha. "Carter, we have a situation. The consortium has filed a formal complaint with Earth's government claiming that human activities are destabilizing their economic system. They're threatening to revoke our membership unless we cease all consulting operations." Carter's smile widened. "Excellent. That means we're ahead of schedule." Harrison's expression showed concern rather than satisfaction. "The Secretary of State is asking questions about your operations. Some people are worried that we're creating more enemies than allies. Commander, please inform the Secretary that Earth Consulting Services has generated over 2 trillion credits in economic growth across consortium space in the past 18 months. Our activities have created jobs for millions of beings and improved living standards on 43 worlds." What Carter didn't mention was that most of that economic growth had been concentrated among the species and individuals who had embraced human-style competition. The traditional power structures that had maintained consortium stability were experiencing what economists politely called market corrections. 3 days later, Zara 97 arrived at Nexus Prime with a delegation of senior consortium officials. They requested an immediate meeting with Carter and his team, citing urgent matters of mutual concern. The meeting took place in a conference room that Carter had specifically chosen for its psychological impact. Floor-to-ceiling windows provided a view of the station's commercial district, where the signs of economic transformation were obvious to anyone who looked carefully. New businesses had opened in previously empty spaces. Independent traders competed alongside established companies. Young beings from dozens of species worked together in mixed crews rather than segregating by their traditional roles. The ordered calm that had characterized consortium society was being replaced by energetic chaos. Mr. Carter, Zara 97 began, her crystalline form pulsing with patterns of light that suggested agitation. The Consortium Council has grave concerns about the activities of Earth Consulting Services. Carter nodded politely. We're always interested in feedback from our valued partners. How can we better serve the Consortium's needs? Another Zarathi, identified as Clear Deep Thought from the Economic Stability Department, activated a holographic display showing market data from across Consortium space. These fluctuations in pricing, production, and trade patterns are unprecedented. Our models cannot predict economic conditions more than 3 months in advance. That does sound challenging, Amanda Foster said with apparent sympathy. On Earth, we've found that flexible planning systems work better in dynamic markets. Dynamic markets are exactly the problem, Clear Deep Thought replied sharply. The Consortium has maintained prosperity through careful coordination and long-term planning. Your concepts of competition and innovation are creating instability that threatens billions of beings. Dr. Morgan leaned forward. But surely you've noticed the improvements in productivity and living standards. The Kithara cooperatives are producing better goods. The Nereid shipping companies are providing faster service. Innovation is solving problems that have existed for centuries. Zara 97's light patterns shifted to what might have been frustration. Yes, some metrics have improved. But at what cost? Social cohesion is breaking down. Traditional authorities are being challenged. Young beings are abandoning their species-established roles to pursue individual ambitions. Carter stood and walked to the window, looking out at the bustling commercial district. A group of mixed-species entrepreneurs was setting up a new business venture in a storefront that had been empty for decades. Zara 97, may I ask you a question? Carter said, without turning around. In the past 1,000 years of consortium stability, how many new technologies have been developed? How many problems have been solved? How many dreams have been achieved? The Zarathi was quiet for a long moment. Stability was our achievement. Peace was our dream. Carter turned back to face the alien delegation. And you succeeded brilliantly, but now your people are dreaming new dreams. They want to build things, create things, improve things. They want to compete and excel and grow. He gestured toward the window where the entrepreneurs were hanging a sign for their new company. You can't put that energy back in the box, Zara 97. The galaxy has remembered what it means to strive. Clear Deep Thought's form flickered with what appeared to be anger. Then you admit that Earth has deliberately destabilized our civilization. Not destabilized, Carter replied calmly. Liberated. Your system worked perfectly for maintaining the status quo. But it also prevented growth, innovation, and individual achievement. We simply offered alternatives. The Zarathi delegation exchanged rapid communications in light patterns too fast for the translation systems to follow. Finally, Zara 97 spoke again. The Consortium Council is prepared to offer Earth expanded membership status and significant trade concessions if you cease these disruptive activities immediately. Carter smiled. That's very generous. Unfortunately, Earth Consulting Services is now a private entity with clients across 47 worlds. Even if Earth's government wanted to shut us down, they lack the authority. Which was technically true, though Carter had been careful not to mention that most of those clients were now financially dependent on human consulting services and would resist any attempt to return to the old system. The meeting ended with polite but tense farewells. As the Zarathi delegation departed, Carter watched their ship leave the docking bay and head toward the hyperspace jump point. Think they'll try to force the issue? Amanda asked. Carter was already pulling up displays showing the current economic data across consortium space. Human influence now touched 60% of all trade transactions. The old system of rigid specialization was crumbling as species competed across traditional boundaries. They'll try, Carter said softly. But they're about to discover something that Earth's corporations learned centuries ago. What's that? Carter's predator smile returned as he watched the numbers flow across his screens. Once the market starts moving, it's very difficult to stop. 5 years after first contact, the Galactic Trade Consortium officially ceased to exist. The final ceremony took place at Nexus Prime, now renamed Alliance Central Hub, in the same conference room where Carter had first met with the Zarathi delegation. Daniel Carter stood at the head of a polished table wearing his signature business suit, though now it was tailored from fabric woven on 12 different worlds using techniques that hadn't existed before human competition encouraged innovation. Around the table sat representatives from 47 species, including Zara 97, who now held the title of Regional Administrator for Crystalline Systems. The transition to the Terran Economic Alliance is now complete, Carter announced, gesturing to the holographic displays that showed trade data flowing across hundreds of worlds. All member species have ratified the new competitive market framework. The transformation had taken longer than Carter originally planned, but the results exceeded his most optimistic projections. Galactic economic output had increased by 300%. Technological innovation was advancing at rates that made the old consortium's stability look like stagnation. Most importantly, the rigid caste system that had kept species locked in specific roles had shattered completely. Click Sharp Mind, now the elected leader of the Independent Manufacturers Association, raised one of his forearms. The Kithara cooperatives report record production levels again this quarter. Our new automated systems are producing goods that were unimaginable under the old hive restrictions. Captain Ryan Brooks, who had been promoted to Admiral of Alliance Security Forces, nodded from his position near the wall. His fleet of Earth vessels now provided protection services to merchant convoys across Alliance space, a necessary function in the more competitive economic environment. Dr. Lisa Morgan participated via hologram from her position as director of the Alliance Academy on the former Zarathi homeworld. Her educational programs had expanded to cover 37 worlds, teaching advanced business strategy and competitive analysis to the brightest young minds from every species. Academy enrollment is up 40% this year, Morgan reported. We're seeing unprecedented interest in entrepreneurship and innovation studies. The graduating classes are starting companies that are revolutionizing entire industries. Amanda Foster, now head of the Alliance Development Bank, pulled up financial reports that showed the scope of change across their territory. We've approved funding for over 12,000 new business ventures in the past year alone. The economic growth rate is stabilizing at sustainable levels as market forces reach equilibrium. Carter listened to the reports with the satisfaction of a master craftsman admiring finished work. The galaxy that had once been locked in unchanging patterns was now a thriving marketplace where innovation and competition drove constant improvement. Not everything had gone smoothly during the transition. The collapse of the old monopoly systems had created temporary shortages and price fluctuations that caused real hardship for some populations. Several species had initially resisted the changes, leading to political upheaval that required careful management. The Zarathi had been the most difficult to convince. Their crystalline nature made them naturally inclined toward order and stability, concepts that didn't mesh well with competitive markets, but even they had eventually adapted when they discovered that their analytical abilities made them excellent financial advisors and market analysts. There is one remaining issue we need to address, Zara 97 said, her light patterns indicating careful consideration. The Outer Rim territories have detected our expansion and are showing interest in our economic model. 3 different galactic regions have sent diplomatic missions requesting trade relationships. Carter's smile widened. This was the news he had been waiting for. Excellent. Amanda, what's our capacity for expansion? Foster consulted her data tablets. We could establish consulting operations in 2 additional regions within 6 months. The 3rd region would require about a year to develop the necessary infrastructure. And our educational programs could be adapted for new species within similar timeframes, Morgan added from her hologram. Admiral Brooks stepped forward. My security analysis suggests we should proceed carefully. These new regions might have different attitudes toward change than the consortium species did. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Brooks was right to be cautious. The consortium had been peaceful and trusting, making them ideal targets for economic transformation. Other galactic civilizations might prove more resistant or even hostile to human influence. We'll start with cultural exchange programs, Carter decided. Dr. Morgan, I want you to develop preliminary contact protocols. Amanda, begin analyzing their economic structures for potential opportunities. He turned to address the full assembly. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, 5 years ago, Earth was offered junior membership in a static system that would have kept us digging minerals and growing food for the rest of human history. The representatives around the table listened with the attention that successful business leaders always gave to Carter's strategic presentations. Instead, we chose to compete. We offered alternatives. We encouraged innovation and rewarded excellence. The result is the most prosperous and dynamic civilization in this sector of the galaxy. Carter walked to the massive windows that looked out over Alliance Central Hub's commercial district. The view that had once shown orderly but unchanging patterns now revealed the controlled chaos of a thriving marketplace. Ships from dozens of species competed for docking privileges. Entrepreneurs from different worlds collaborated on projects that crossed traditional boundaries. Young beings who would have been locked into their species' traditional roles now pursued dreams their ancestors couldn't have imagined. But our work is far from finished, Carter continued. Every world we bring into the Alliance expands the market for everyone. Every species we help to compete strengthens the entire economic system. Every tradition we challenge creates opportunities for growth. He turned back to the assembly with the predatory smile that had become his trademark. Across Alliance space, the galaxy is full of civilizations that have achieved stability by limiting growth. They've created peace by preventing change. They've maintained order by suppressing innovation. Carter's voice carried the confidence of a man who had never met a system he couldn't acquire and improve. They're all potential clients. Click-sharp minds' compound eyes reflected with what might have been amusement. Will you offer them the same choice you offered us? Of course not, Carter replied smoothly. We've learned a great deal about galactic economics in the past 5 years. Our methods will be much more efficient now. The meeting concluded with assignments for expansion planning and resource allocation. As the representatives departed for their various worlds and responsibilities, Carter remained at the window studying the endless flow of commerce below. Amanda Foster joined him, carrying her data tablets and wearing the expression of someone who had just realized the full scope of their achievement. Daniel, do you ever think about what we've done here? We came to the galaxy as junior partners in someone else's system. Now we're reshaping entire civilizations. Carter was quiet for a moment, watching a group of young entrepreneurs from 6 different species celebrating the launch of their new venture in the plaza below. Amanda, when the Zerathi first contacted Earth, they thought they were dealing with another primitive species that would gratefully accept whatever role they assigned us. He turned away from the window and straightened his tie, a gesture that had become automatic over years of high-stakes negotiations. They had no idea they were talking to predators. Carter walked toward the door, already planning the next phase of expansion into unexplored regions of the galaxy. Behind him, the lights of Alliance Central Hub pulsed with the rhythm of unrestricted commerce, a beacon of competitive capitalism spreading across the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what Carter had intended from the beginning.